Republican presidential candidate Marco Rubio sat down with our Dave Price to talk about what Rubio says still needs to change.
Since we're talking to you on 9/11, in your gut, do you feel like we're safer? That's what everybody always wants to know. Are we safer than we were?
We're not. The threat has changed. It's evolved. It's a much more dangerous threat. In 9/11, the threat was of a foreigner who came to the U.S. and then conducted an attack. And that threat still exists. For example, Al-Qaeda in Yemen. It retains the capability of that sort of operation and may very well be plotting one now. But we have a new threat now, and that is radical jihadists, some of whom are born and raised in the United States, who are radicalized online and inspired to take independent action, not directed, but inspired via social media. That's a new threat we didn't have in 9/11, and it's very real. So it's one it's new to the last couple of years.
What you said, though, is going to be very difficult for some people to hear, obviously, when we've seen so many people, Iowans and beyond, who've gone overseas, who fought. Some of them have not come back alive.
Yes.
And we have 9/11 is 14 years ago now.
It is.
That's tough to stomach.
It is tough. And so what's happened is the core of Al-Qaeda, the Al-Qaeda we knew, the Osama bin Laden Al-Qaeda, it's been, but other affiliates of Al-Qaeda have strengthened. And in addition, there's been a new iteration, this new group that has spun off of Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, the ISIS. And they possess a new threat. They're much more sophisticated, for example, in the use of social media and propaganda, and they're using it to recruit people that are already in the United States. Today there were reports of a young man in Florida who had been radicalized and was headed to Kansas City to conduct a 9/11 attack.
So it's firefighters.
Yeah, so it's just a new threat, and it's one that we're going to have to stay on top of for years to come. This is going to be a very difficult war on terror, but we have no choice but to win it.
So what can we expect? So you become president. How do we then go forward? I mean, is this just how it is right now, where we can expect to fight year after year after year? Or is that just how it is?
It could. It's going to take a while. These people are ideologically driven. They're willing to die for their cause. And we're going to have to do whatever it takes. We can't surrender to it, and we can't accept it as a reality, because they're never satisfied. They will continue to push until they're here. And so it would involve a number of elements. One is we need to deny them safe havens. That's why I articulated early on in that conflict that the U.S. needed to identify moderates in Syria we could work with. If we didn't, they would be wiped out, and that space would be filled by radical jihadists, and that's exactly what's happened. We cannot weaken our intelligence capabilities. It's already hard enough to figure out what they're doing. We can't further weaken them in a way that makes it even harder for us to figure it out. And we need to continue to capture people and house them in places like Guantanamo, not send them to the U.S., because we need to be able to gather actionable intelligence from enemy combatants, not simply try to try them in a criminal court system where they're read Miranda rights and stop talking.
As we mentioned, Rubio is going to be one of 4 presidential contenders appearing at the Republican Party of Iowa's tailgate near Jack Trice Stadium tomorrow. Rand Paul, Donald Trump, and Scott Walker will also appear at the tailgate between 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock. There's one thing about Ed